Smaugust. A time to celebrate D&D's most iconic creature type. And, once again, we've got a bone to pick with it.
In our opinion, the variety of creatures in the dragon category of monsters is quite lacking for a game that literally has dragons in its name.
Not to mention the variety of dragons and draconic creatures in mythology could fill a whole book on its own. But most dragons are just color swaps of breath weapons and claw/wing/tail attacks. Well, rend attacks in 2024. Whatever. Point stands.
Thankfully, in 2024, higher level dragons have gotten a little more variety in their stat blocks, particularly in their legendary actions. But outside of that, their base designs are still quite similar to one another.
So this year, just like last year, we've got some new dragons to spice up your D&D adventures. Hello one and all, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Andrew.
Artsmith and wordsmith of the Mithril Canvas, where we make homebrew items, monsters, and more for you to use in your D&D 5th edition campaigns.
This year, we've whipped up another pair of dragons which we hope can inspire you to write up new adventures and plot hooks. And the first of those two is a nasty little critter called...
Few things are as capable of unnerving a dragon as much as a false scale. Parasitic organisms that prey on their mightier draconic cousins for survival. Starting as tiny skittering beings, false scales latch onto dragons while still in their adolescence, growing in size alongside their host at its expense. As they continue to feed and reproduce, their hosts become covered in white splotches as more and more false scales replace their actual scales in spots that the dragon cannot reach. Without help, the host dragon inevitably falls as their constitution withers, leaving their parasitic cousins to wander to find another unfortunate dragon that may suffer the same fate.
The false scale is an anomaly amongst dragon species, with a biological niche that allows it to take down some of the mightiest creatures in existence.
Functioning as natural predators to their larger cousins, the life cycle of a false scale is an odd one. Born from minuscule eggs laid in caves and other habitats likely to become future dragon dens, the false scale begins its life resembling a small pale mite, hardly something of notice.
They remain this way, hidden and out of sight until they encounter another dragon, and once they do, these little suckers wait until their new friend beds down for the night. Then they burrow into its body, kind of like a blowfly larva, which, if you've never seen, do not Google it. Just don't do it.
Brother, ugh.
And once they've made purchase between the dragon's scales, this is where the false scale earns its name. Over time, it will grow in accordance with its hosts, matching its rate of maturity as to not raise suspicion.
The dragon may go years without ever realizing that a parasite has made its home on its back, growing fully into adulthood, none the wiser.
But once its host reaches maturity, the false scale does the same. It begins to lay more eggs on the host's body, which will then hatch and go on to replace even more of the dragon's scales. What began as one odd white plate begins to spread into a sickly stain composed of parasitic creatures draining its life force.
With each passing year, a dragon infested with false scales will grow weaker and weaker as each tick-like parasite literally drains its constitution. And by the time they notice, it may be too late, as a veritable swarm may have already taken residence upon the withered dragon's body.
Those who can overcome their draconic pride and seek out aid may still struggle to muster the strength to find adventurers powerful enough to slay the false scales in time. One false scale may not pose a significant threat, but by the time a dragon has reached adulthood, these things come in packs.
Detaching a false scale is no small feat. Attempting to harm the scale also damages the host dragon, and once danger is sensed, the swarm will descend upon any perceived threats in an effort to protect themselves.
And if a dragon does die due to its parasitic infestation, the false scales begin the next stage of their life cycle, venturing into the world to lay more eggs, beginning the process all over again.
And any villages or towns in the path of the stampeding false scales? Collateral damage of their natural instincts. Unless they are prepared to take on a pack of armored draconic ticks, now armed with stolen breath weapons, resistances, and immunities, courtesy of their newly deceased host.
In battle, these are some of the main qualities that define a false scale, determined by the type of dragon they resided on. So, if a false scale lived to maturity on the back of an adult red dragon, it would sport a shiny red coat of paint, alongside a miniature fire breath and immunity to fire damage.
Alongside this, the false scale primarily slams into its targets, potentially knocking them prone and leaving them exposed to its bite, which also deals additional damage respective to the elemental affinity of its last host.
Depending on what stage of infestation your players encounter a false scale, the combat scenario may play out very differently.
Perhaps your players require the assistance of a once mighty dragon, only to discover that the beast is now sickly and covered in white spots. They may take it upon themselves to try and convince the dragon to accept their aid in exchange for a favor.
Or perhaps they were just too late, and a swarm of false scales has begun tearing through the countryside. Now the party must coordinate how to protect against 20-odd scales juiced on green dragon blood.
Is there extermination to be done so there are no more eggs around? Would capturing a specimen help prevent future infections? The biology of a false scale itself could possibly advance scientific understandings of dragons and the magical properties of their lifeblood.
If one harvests an intact scale from the back of the creature, they may be able to craft an adaptive anti-dragon shield that retains the creature's absorbing powers.
The false scale was a concept we cooked up last year, but didn't get around to executing, so we're very happy to finally drop it, even if it's a year late. It takes advantage of how dragons in D&D have their specific elemental affinities by stealing the draconic essence from their hosts.
We felt there was a lot of potential to this creepy little dragon, and we enjoyed conceptualizing how it would prey on dragons many times stronger than them.
And now, for what feels like the opposite end of the spectrum, we're happy to introduce you to an enigmatic being forged by time and experience. The Parliament is an accumulation of history in tangible form. Armed with the memories of many lives past, these dragons use their vast knowledge to act as advisors to those in need, discriminating not between a king upon a throne or a vagrant upon the road. So long as one has wisdom to barter, the Parliament is happy to advise, and those with particularly valuable information may find themselves in the dragon's good graces.
Ancient and majestic, a parliament is a mysterious entity with a life cycle quite unlike any other.
When most mortal beings reach the end of their lifespans, that's it. They cease to exist and pass on to whatever afterlife is most appropriate for them.
But for the parliament, death is only the beginning. Well, another beginning.
Because when a parliament dies after hundreds or even thousands of years of existence, its physical form magically collapses into a star-speckled egg, from which a young parliament wormling soon hatches.
And the cherry on top is that the previous parliament dragon, or at least its soul or essence or what have you, can be heard by the newly hatched wormling, along with all of its previous iterations.
This means that the oldest of parliament dragons have generation after generation of itself speaking inside its head, each trying to steer the newest controller of their collective bodies in the right direction.
Obviously, this can cause headaches for the little dragon, but over time, the combined wisdom and advice from their ancestral selves often comes in handy. As collectors of knowledge, parliaments spend the better part of their life chasing and preserving information in order to hand it down to their progeny.
So, if someone wants to piece together some information now lost to history, a parliament dragon is their best bet, as it's likely that one or more of their previous lives will have the answer rattling around in their metaphorical brain. Like the world's most expansive data storage center, but less evil.
Anybody from the king of a nation to a beggar on the streets may find an audience with the parliament, as many come to it in its past lives for advice in times of crisis.
Thankfully, these dragons are willing to share the information housed within their minds to those in need, so long as an equivalent exchange can be agreed upon. Those who make friends with the parliament are rewarded handsomely for their troubles.
Unfortunately, year after year, less amenable folks attempt to sneak into the dragon's den without an invitation. After all, many would literally kill for just a glimpse within the books-filled halls of the dragon's home without having to pay a price.
But like any good dragon, the parliament is well equipped to protect itself and its horde from invasion and assault.
Though it is armed with claws as sharp as any dragon's, a parliament's primary means of combat is magical. With a variety of spells mainly from the illusion and abjuration schools, the dragon controls the battlefield while keeping itself safe from harm.
Using a combination of spells such as Fear and Dominate Person, the dragon is capable of turning the tides even when outnumbered, and the illusions it creates with Mirror Image and Mirage Arcane make it extremely difficult to land a hit on the dragon itself.
And if things seem truly dangerous, in place of a breath weapon, the dragon can unleash a mental blast of psychic energy that rattles the minds of creatures around it.
Creatures who fail their saving throw against this mental assault take psychic damage and are stunned until the start of the dragon's next turn, making them useless for the time being.
Suffice it to say, taking on a parliament is no small feat, especially so on its home turf. Those who attempt to take down a parliament ought to be ready for a difficult encounter, facing a creature that has seen ages pass them by.
So, for those more reasonable types who may seek to instead make nice with a dragon, there can be any number of reasons they may make their way into its domain.
Perhaps they require ancient knowledge that was lost centuries ago, but hope that the Parliament Dragon could recount first-hand experience of said knowledge. They could try to barter with the dragon, or end up having to find something that interests it in order to get what they need.
Or perhaps the players are tasked with stealing a specific book off of the Parliament's shelves at the command of someone unwilling to get their hands dirty. Perhaps someone like a Crowfather, who doesn't even need the book, but just wants to piss off the stodgy old Parliament.
Crowfathers and parliaments hate each other to the very core due to their philosophical differences. While the Crowfather is very self-serving and only wishes to look after me and mine, the Parliament seeks to share its knowledge with the world so that it may not be forgotten, seeing the Crowfather's hoard of shiny trinkets as laughably materialistic.
And honestly, a Crowfather probably did something to upset one of the Parliament's older selves and has never been able to let it go. These two can't get over grudges no matter how much time has passed.
Having both of these high-level dragons in your adventure would make for some fun chemistry, as your players try to navigate a dragon mob boss and what is essentially a living library of knowledge, having generational beef with one another.
You have sought the Black Knight, foolish one, but you have found your death.
Is that you under there, Crawley?
Crowley.
What the hell are you playing at?
It's alright, lad, I know him, he's alright.
But even without a Crowfather present, the Parliament makes for an interesting presence in your world. A being like this, which commands respect not only for its might, but for its knowledge, can be a powerful moving force in politics and negotiations.
And for those of you who like to come up with quirky NPCs and their voices, we definitely envision the Parliament being able to swap between its many past lives and personalities, making for a unique type of creature depending on what traits you give each of its older selves.
You know, just in case you have some accents in your back pocket. Flex that voice acting.
You really are the most devious bastard in New York City.
Specifically within its lair, where the Parliament can summon all of its past selves to speak with the party in a sort of grand courtroom setting.
We encourage you to have fun designing a lair for this dragon, with long hallways and tall ceilings for it to wander around, picking books and scrolls off of the shelves to give away.
And just like any good librarian, the Parliament keeps a watchful eye within its domain, as piercing its defenses with divination or teleportation magic is impossible.
All those who come to the dragon for knowledge must earn it by way of the dragon's good graces. Those who attempt to, or worse, succeed in stealing from the dragon's hoard will be met with a fury that spans centuries and generations.
However, those of particular merit to the Parliament may be gifted one of their feathery bookmarks, which allow the wielder to keep tabs on one another.
We hope both the Parliament Dragon and the False Scale can serve you well in your campaigns and adventures. If you've got any other ideas for how to fit these dragons into your worlds, we'd love to hear about them in the comments below.
And as always, we've got stat blocks and art for both of them on our Instagram, which is linked down below. And PDFs with high-res art, stat blocks, and lore are available on the Mithril Canvas Patreon, which is also linked down there.
A huge thanks to those of you who already subscribe to us on Patreon. We really couldn't do this without you, and we appreciate you supporting our creative endeavors.
It's been a crazy year since we started posting on YouTube, beginning with last year's Smaugust video, and we've got some more great videos on the horizon. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again next time.